to this
Hello.
episode after work. We are up to episode 31, which is still incredibly crazy. The fact that this started out just as a silly excuse to chat with people still blows me away. And I bring that up because I've got two very, very special guests today. Saby and Christina. Christina making her debut on the show, which is very exciting. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm pleased to be here.
Yes, and we were chatting. I'm pleased that you're here as well. We were chatting in the lead-in and how Saby was on show number 2 of this show, and it was terrible. And it's not Saby's fault.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for making sure.
It was you and Steve Palmer, and the show. You guys were tremendous. I mean, I still don't know what I'm doing, but I really didn't know what I was doing. So, anyways, I want to welcome you guys to the show. We are going to be having a lot of conversations today, but we're going to have sort of a central theme around leadership, because I think that that's something that is sort of near and dear to all of our hearts, and I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. But before we get into that, Saby, you know what the first question is. What are you beveraging today?
Yes, sir. So it is still my work time, so I'm not beveraging anything alcoholic or anything. I just want to make sure. Usually, I love kombucha, and and I'm still doing that. As you must have heard in my second one, I was drinking kombucha at that time, and I'm still drinking kombucha. So nothing has changed so far.
Okay, kombucha. Welcome,
And cheers, Vince. I'm drinking tea. It's 9 o'clock at night here in the UK, but to be honest, I'd be drinking tea at any time during the day. I drink a lot more tea now. I'm at home, and the kettle is just a few steps away from where I'm working. So, yeah.
So just put a kettle on in the morning, keep it hot all day, and just constantly.
Yeah, I wish I had one of those. Those kind of boiler tap things that are hot all day. We haven't got one of those, sadly. But that would be great.
I mean, Amazon.
Yeah. So thinking about it.
Yeah. Christina, question for you regarding the tea. Is it black tea, or do you use like British tea where you add milk in there and
there's got milk in there. It's black tea with milk. That's the English way.
English way. So you just boil water, put some tea bags in there, let it boil, and then you add milk in there later on, or while you're serving?
All at the same time, pretty much, and then drink it.
Okay, nice.
Tea theory.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm also making a debut of sorts, in that while I have the glass here, it is empty. I don't feel like it today. I just finished a coffee, and so in my Tim Hortons Madrid mug, because when you go to Madrid, you definitely have to check out Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
But I just don't feel like it. So I think this is gonna be. Well, I'm not gonna be as silly, but I think that's okay, because I think the topic of the day is leadership, and that's fine. I was not influenced by either of you. I had already sort of decided it, but I was also not going to let either of you drink alone. If one of you was going to have, then it was okay. Fine.
Yeah.
I didn't really like it. So leadership, and we'll start with you, Christina. What is that word, concept, idea? What does it mean to you?
So that's a really good question. I think that analysis is actually the heart of leadership. And I think we don't recognize that enough as the analyst community. We have got such a lot to offer at the next level in our organizations. We kind of set up as analysis as opposed to leadership, but actually it's the same thing.
Be still, my beating heart.
Is that the right answer?
I mean, well, there's no right answer, but late in the year, because this is like, I've been talking about leadership for a while, and I do it through the lens of like strategic business analysis, enterprise analysis, and like I've had this, I've been on this kick of like the people that should be at the decision-making table are those that understand the analysis. Because I've never seen anybody, and Saby, all apologies to the PM community, brother, but I'm gonna do this anyway.
Okay.
Like, nobody makes decisions and analyzes a situation like we do. The lie that I think we've been sold is that you can lead from anywhere and that you can influence without authority. And I do agree that you can influence, but at the end of the day, you're not the one making the decision. And so like, to me, we need to figure out how to get more analysts into those leadership roles. And now we have a cat.
I knew that was going to happen.
No, it's all good. Getting more analysts into those leadership roles, because they are already so well equipped in making those decisions. And this is where I'll throw it over to you, Saby, for the PM's perspective, because I think you'd probably argue the same thing. And you've demonstrated that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. One thing, Vince, when you were saying, which just now, like influence without authority is not possible, that really got my attention. Because yes, you can have influence without authority. You can influence through your inspiration. And the example I can give you is my daughter. She has no authority. But, right? But she inspired me and showed me those leadership principles as a 10-year-old kid, which inspired me and still inspires me every single day to do things without any authority. So yes, I can understand, right, influence without authority, but you can definitely influence with inspiration as well. So I just want to add that to the mix.
Yeah, I think, I mean, absolutely, right? But at the end of the day, she can influence you. I mean, I get influenced by my kids as well, where they, hey, I want this thing. Can I do this? Do you want to play with me? But at the end of the day, it's my decision to say yes or no. And I think we're seeing that same thing play out in organizations.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I mean, one thing I've got to do something about is I put out this survey collecting data and trying to understand what it is, and I'm hoping that I can get it far enough that I can actually present something at like BBC this year to talk about it, because I think somebody's got to talk about it, and that's why when Christina, when you suggested this topic, I thought it was like, let's talk about leadership, because it's important, right?
I think something I've seen a lot is people feeling like they're just a BA or just an analyst and almost kind of apologizing for it. I think we've set our own ceiling, and up to this point is analysis, and after this point is some kind of idealistic, extroverted leadership, the very kind of charismatic leadership style. And we think, well, we're just analysts. That's not us. But actually, I don't subscribe to that idea anymore. Yeah. I think the analysts have exactly the skill set needed for clear, calm, and measured leadership.
1,000%.
Yeah. One of the things which, Christina, a good point in there is what I've seen in project management world is people spend too much time in tools, techniques, and everything else, and they forget the people aspect of that. And that very much goes for business analysis or any kind of leadership stuff. When you stop thinking about people and just start thinking about tools, techniques, processes, yes, you can go only so far, and you're going to hit a ceiling pretty quickly. 15% of decisions or influence you make in leadership is through tools and techniques. 85% is through people skills, right? So no matter how good you are, if you don't have those effective people skills, those softer skills where you can have empathy, where you can build that trust, where you can build that relationship with your team members, there is a barrier which will be really tough to cross.
Yeah. It's funny though, right? Like it's to me those leadership skills, and I was on I was in a clubhouse room today, and I talked about this, and it's like those are the differentiators between success and failure, is those those people skills, the cognitive skills. And I think I said it also in Adrian did a live this morning, and they were talking about empathy, and it was yeah, it's like, who cares? The tools can be taught, the methodologies can be taught. It's the mindset and the thought processes that are often overlooked and not you, and like that's what sets you apart from your peers.
I totally agree. Something that Adrian and I have discussed before, is that it doesn't matter how good your process modeling skills are if no one wants to work with you.
Right. Yeah, I did a webinar the other day for the IIBA in Houston, the Houston chapter, and that question, it was about Six Sigma, so it was a little bit more tactical. And that question came up, like, about tools, like what tool would you recommend? And it's a question that I'm always ready for, because that's how we think. And my response back was, and like I acknowledged, you're not going to like this answer because it's probably not what you're looking for, but the tool is inconsequential. I do my process mapping on, and you can't see it because it's over here, but on a whiteboard with markers.
Yeah.
Like, now I don't then present that, but like as I'm mapping out the process, I'm doing it there because it's easy to change. I can build my value stream map or whatever I'm trying to do, and then I transpose it into Visio or something else to then make it presentable to executives. But like the tool doesn't matter. It's not as important as the ability to leverage the understanding of what the tool is intended to draw out. Right?
Yep.
But sadly, many leaders are looking for tools. They are looking for, things that are good and flashy. And I think this is where you get this prevalence of, digital transformation versus business transformation. Because digital and technology is sexy, and other stuff is hard. Where do you sort of stand on tools as sexy? Are tools sexy?
Absolutely. Tools are sexy, but but tools are, as you said, are just one part of that. That's an easy thing. Business transformation, where you have to work with people, where you have to. I see the comment from Jimmy. I don't like watching myself on videos.
I'm not sure what that means. Jimmy's not on the show, so
I don't know.
I don't know what your issue is, Jimmy. But okay, Jimmy, I think is just looking for a little attention here. But Jimmy, we admire you, and you are a gentleman and a scholar. Anyways, so back to the Jimmy show.
Back to the real stuff, digital and business transformation. So to give a real example, at City of Portland, my previous job. 10 years working on a digital transformation project, failed 4 times. Too much focus on technology, too much focus on processes, but not focused on people. So at the end of the day, it's all about change, organizational change management, people management, and how do you take them from this place to where you want to take them, where the end goal is. That's the real transformation which we're talking about, by implementing new processes and new tools, sexy tools and techniques, because you need efficient tools to make sure that they meet their goals.
And I think one of the most underrated leadership skills is listening. And a way that our tools can be really valuable is to show people that we have listened to them and give them a framework and a way of feeding in information that isn't just a load of moaning, and it kind of gives a structure to what they're trying to tell us, and we can play it back to them in a way that shows them that we've listened to what they've had to say. And I think that is such an important part of change, and a bit that gets squeezed so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at least then they feel like, you know, you heard me, and now that you're reflecting it back to me, it's actually not exactly what I meant or what I wanted, but it's a place to, like, I think you then now have that buy-in from them, because at least you heard what they said, right? And so now there's a little bit more trust, right? So I think it's all sort of interrelated. Because I agree with you. Listening, I don't think is a widely from an expertise standpoint. I don't think a lot of people are good at listening, right? And there's that line of like we listen to respond, not to understand, right? And so. Saby, you're smiling. You're freaking me out. Did I like what?
No,
do I have something in my teeth or something?
No, absolutely. You were because that's my tagline when I talk.
Oh,
about,
okay.
You know, we listen to respond, not to actually understand.
Yeah.
And I think most of us are wired for that. Is listen to respond, because our parents tell us, "Hey, did you listen to that?" Yes, mom. Yes, dad. So starting at a very young age, we are responding. And then once we start responding, we stop, that understanding in there. Okay, just need to understand what my parents are saying or what that customer is saying, because we have been conditioned to respond.
Right. Well, and just to and I did hear you and I did understand you, and I don't want to address what you just said, because no, I the whole thing about in my teeth, like, this is like full disclosure now. I had 2 meetings this week, and it wasn't until it was like right after lunch, and it wasn't until afterwards that I noticed I had something, and I was like, damn it. Like, I was glad that I was back from the camera a little bit, but it was, it happens. It happens. Yeah.
So something you've reminded me of there, Vince, is a bit of a buzzword.
Because I had something in my teeth?
No, that's not what I was going to tell you. There's a bit of a buzzword in leadership, which is around authentic leadership. And having watched quite a few of your shows, authenticity is obviously something that is important to you.
Yes. I don't know any other way. It is exhausting to play the political game of corporate, Canada, corporate America, corporate world. It's exhausting to me. And so I mean, I don't know what's the shame in being vulnerable. And I think that's what that really is. I wouldn't even say it's authenticity, but it's about being vulnerable to just like, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I think. And it took a long time to sort of get to this point where I felt comfortable, but I feel the love is growing here, like across oceans. The love is growing. Yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome.
So Vince, authenticity, again, it also depends on the culture too, the culture in which you grew up, right? For me personally, growing up in India, you can't be authentic.
Hold on. That's not a Western U.S. Portland accent. It's not.
It's like, okay, if you are authentic and if you're real, you're gonna hurt so many people about that. So starting at a very young age, you are being conditioned again. If you want to say some bad things, don't say it, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to be real, you can't show your real thing. If you don't want to do it, just say, yes, I will do it, and then don't do it, right? So there was a lot of these things which we, in previous culture where I grew up, maybe
Yes.
it's changing now, but again, for me personally, it took me a lot of time and a lot of practice to start practicing that authenticity. And once I did that, I think the culture here in United States and Canada probably is more acceptable. And it's very direct culture as compared to in India, which is very indirect culture. So you can't say your things. You're gonna keep going around and round and round until you will never come to the point. Here it's very direct. So that actually helped me to be more authentic and be more real.
I agree with you. And I'll add, and I'll speak for Canada at least in the context that I've experienced. It is a lot more politically charged and duplicitous, deviant. Like there's a lot more malice in some of the behavior, and it's within my team now, we have we've established our team norms, and one of them, and whenever we share these with people are like, wow, that's a really good one. It's I won't stab you in the back, I'll have the decency to stab you in the front. And it's like, I'm not going to go behind your back and make you look bad, but like if there's something that I am going to do to you, at least you will see me coming.
Yeah.
And you'll see, okay, this is going to get dark. I was going to like where we insert the knife, and like, but I think you get the image, right? Like we're not going to operate from a place of like malice and deception and that traditional, corporate politicking. If I have something to say to you, I will say it to you because it comes with good intent. It comes from a place of love. So, but I don't think enough organizations and enough teams have that, because it's or at least practice it. I think it's easy to say. I think it's very different to actually do.
I think a lot of organizations have a set of values that they work on and then publish and make into very kind of pretty looking brochures and posters for the wall. But most organizations don't talk about those values or how those values influence individuals day to day. How is that reflected in our decision making? How is it reflected in our hiring practices?
Right.
And I think that's a really good way of organizations being authentic to the values that they've defined.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Saby?
No, I was gonna go to, I was looking at the comments which are being posted at the same time. Leadership assuming positive intent. It's all also about building trust. So it was an interesting conversation with another leader. We were talking about leadership styles and building trust. It was like his style was, hey, you have to earn trust, as a team member. And my philosophy is, I'm going to give you a full bucket of trust. And based on your actions, either you're going to empty it out or you're going to keep it fulfilled. But that's a hard thing to do, right? You have to be, as you said, Vince, you have to be vulnerable, because if you're giving somebody a full trust bucket, and if that individual can actually empty it out pretty quickly, and then you are vulnerable right there.
Right.
And then you're gonna is that experience, the one which you had that individual, is gonna biased or taint your future experiences? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to the concept of like social capital. And so if you're giving them and I do the same thing, right? Like here's the bucket. You have trust. And based on your behaviors, you're either going to add to the account, and this is the idea of capital, right? Or you're going to make a withdrawal. And it takes it, unless you're doing something fatal, it takes a while to get to the point where I just do not trust you at all. And there are people that immediately come to mind that I do not trust, because they have exhausted their social capital with me. There are other people that I would trust to the end, because I know, like, there is that experience. But I think you start from a place where trust is inherent, and it is given. And again, that means that you have to be somewhat vulnerable, because especially in those first early days, that may burn you, and you have to be okay with that. But I think, for me, if people are going to make mistakes, and I think this is another piece of like organizational culture, is how we treat mistakes. Right? Like, do we, because everybody talks about it. I was having this conversation today about transformation, and it by its very nature means you're doing something you've never done before. Inherent in that is an increased risk of failure. And yet organizations punish failure. So how do those reconcile? Right?
So if that's the kind of organization which punishes failures, that means that's also punishing innovation and ability to take risks, and that organization is not going to go anywhere. So it's better for an individual to live their life, you have only one, and leave that organization and find an organization which values risk taking, which gives you that safe space to fail and fail fast and go from there. If you're not making any mistakes, you're not learning, you're not growing, right?
You're not trying hard enough if you're not making mistakes. But again, it's contextual, right? And Christina, I'm sorry, I will cede the floor to you in a minute, because I think it's I haven't shut up, but it's contextual. Like, if you are constantly making mistakes, then that's something else. It might be a performance thing. It's another issue. If you make a mistake, and it hangs on you like a stone of shame, like from the Simpsons, where they put the stone of shame on home. Anyways, like that is problematic, because now it's like I made one mistake 4 years ago. Why am I still living with this? You know what I mean? And so, but again, it's reflective of the culture.
And listening to you both there, I was thinking about the phrase that we use, building trust. These tiny little building blocks to build a decent amount of trust in something. It takes a long time sometimes to trust someone or to trust a team, but it can be undone so quickly. And if we were just as slow to kind of take away from the trust as if they built up and took away at the same rate, I think it would be more fair. But we don't work like that. We work like the trust builds so slowly, and then it all comes down.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, right? Like, it's This is very, very philosophical, I find, but also pretty practical. Like, I think a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is can be applied in organizations if they're willing to really look at their culture and look at, how can we truly be better and not just have, improvement theater where it's like it's a show.
But you both said that you come from the point of view of giving trust and allowing people to prove themselves or prove themselves untrustworthy. How do you help people to trust you quickly? How do you build that trust from other people?
That's a good question. Saby, you want to take that one first, buddy?
Absolutely. So when I talk about trust, I talk about an equation in trust, where trust is equal to R plus C plus I divided by SI. So you have to be.
Hold on.
We need to see this.
R plus C plus I divided by square root of S.
Divided by SI. It's not complex, right?
Okay.
T is equal to R. R stands for reliable.
Okay.
If you're reliable, if you're showing up on time for meetings, you're gonna quickly build that trust with your team members, right?
Mm-hmm.
Competence. Are you competent enough? C stands for that, right? So if somebody is giving you something to do, are you delivering on it? Do you have the knowledge to deliver it on time? And I stands for intimate. Intimate in the sense is like a wall. Like Brene Brown talks about braving model. V stands for a wall. So if your team member is coming and talking to you about something, are you sharing that knowledge with? Are you going behind and starting that rumor mill? Are you that person? So if you don't do that, you're going to quickly build that trust, right? R plus C plus I. Now the big one is SI, self-interest. Are you doing everything which is about you yourself? If that's the case, you're going to quickly erode that trust. So on the other case, if you really want to build fast trust, take self-interest out and start giving that,
Yes.
to your team members or to a bigger vision, to a bigger picture. That's how you're going to build that trust pretty quickly.
My friend, I'm so glad I let you go first, because as you said that, and I do have a separate answer that will not steal from that. But as you said that, I thought back to all of those people who have exhausted my trust, and it was because in I would say nearly every case, they were operating from a place of self-interest.
Yep.
And I think that's one thing that I try not to have. Like, I want to be okay.
Yeah.
I want to, have enough that I can live and be comfortable and be happy. But I don't make my decisions based on those factors.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you hit me here, man, with the self-interest one. That's the rest of it. It was like, yeah, it makes sense. The self-interest was important. You should patent that formula, buddy. I will say, I mean, the thing that I try to do is acknowledge the fact that as a leader, that I am there for my team and not the other way around. And so it's not, what can you do for me? It's what can I do for you? And so in every case, recently, since I've taken on more and more sort of leadership roles, whenever a new team member comes in, the first conversation is, where do you want to get to?
Yeah.
And then how can I help you get there?
Yeah.
So, because that's a hard question to answer. Because in some cases they haven't thought of it, especially as you're moving into a new role. It's like, I don't want to tell you that I want to go somewhere else, but no, I want you to move elsewhere. I want you to move on. But that's my first conversation, is like, where do you see yourself? Where do you want to get to? And how then it's then up to me to figure out how to help you get there. And so whatever it is, like, you want to move into a new area, you want to learn business analysis and, take on more of an analytical role. You want to, I had one recent team member who was like, I want to speak at conferences. They're like, I see you do it, and I want to do that. I'm like, okay, great. Let's make that happen. Because, what do I have to do to get you, to make you happy?
Yeah.
And, and it's not about me. It's about them. And it's coming from a genuine place. It's not lip service. It actually, I mean it when I say it.
When I talk about that, I talk about Sherpa leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sherpa leadership. What's a Sherpa? Sherpa is help somebody climb that mountain, right? It's not for them. How can I help a mountaineer climb that mountain? So Zig Ziglar quote for my friend Jimmy Godard, who's on the roll for putting all the quotes. If you help enough people become successful, you will be successful.
Agreed. Because it's not about you.
It's not about you.
And you're just, like, that rising tide raises all boats. Like, you're gonna, when the tide rises, everybody goes up.
Yep.
I don't need to tear, and this is, again, thinking back to those people that have eroded that trust. Like, they are trying to tear others down so that they stand taller. And I think that's such an, and on the flip side of that, I also feel I feel empathetic for them, that they feel they need to do that. And it fills me with like, how miserable must you be to feel that in order for you to be up, you need to bring other people down. And it's really sad. But there's always something going on that I don't know what they're dealing with, but it's just, I don't know, it's sad. It's sad.
Yolanda made the comment of whose responsibility is it to rebuild trust. I think that's a great, really insightful comment, because when we do trust someone, and particularly if it's a member of your team, we feel comfortable using language around trust. We say, I trust you to do that presentation. I trust you to do this piece of work. Or they maybe bring you a question and you try and push it back to them and say, no, you make a decision. I trust you. Whatever you think is the right thing, I trust you. But on the other end, when we do feel that we've lost the trust in a relationship, we clam up about it. We don't talk about the trust anymore. We don't say the trust has been lost, or I'm not sure if I can trust you with this piece of work. I really want to give you this piece of work to do, but I'm not sure if I can trust you. And I wonder if that would help or if that would make it worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're not being open and honest about your feelings, I think that in and of itself is a problem. I think, if there is something that has happened that has eroded that trust, I think having a conversation, I think at the very least, having the conversation to clear the air is helpful. Because maybe there's something that that you can learn as a result of the action and the behavior, that they can learn as a result. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Like maybe it was just the ask wasn't clear and they were afraid to get clarification because they wanted to seem like they were listening to you. Like, so I think I don't know that you're doing anything really positive by just sort of sweeping it under the rug and saying, you know what, no, you're out in the wilderness now and I will never trust you again. I think it's I don't know, Saby, what do you think, man?
No, I totally agree with you. Even the big thing is you think nobody's watching you. As a leader, everyone is watching you. So even if you start this behavior of putting things under the rug, you think you're not losing trust and nobody's watching, everybody is watching right there. So you're going to start losing trust with everybody else on the team, just not with that individual, saying this leader is not strong enough to deal with this or to bring these things out. So I'm not going to bring these things out as well myself. So you need to lead by example and drive it so that everybody else gives them the courage to have those conversations with them in an honest and authentic way.
Right. And I think that's a good segue into Jimmy's comment. And after giving him the gears about enough with the quotes, let's show Jimmy some love. This is actually I like this question. Do we have to have that trust in place in order for us to work with our colleagues and within our ecosystem? Christina, why don't we start with you? What do you think?
I think to do our best work with people and to do our best work for organizations, there does have to be trust. I think in a transactional situation where you have worked with a department that you maybe don't have to deal with very much, and you send them the thing and they send you the thing back, and that's all that has to happen, I don't think trust is as important. But for real close collaboration, I think trust is critical.
Okay. Saby?
No, I'm going to piggyback what Christina said. If it's transactional, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that much. You get your job done. But if there is a bigger project, needs more relationship, if there is no trust, the speed of doing everything comes down. Stephen Covey's book, The Speed of Trust, right there. So you won't be happy, right? You'll be still doing the work, but are you happy working with the team where there is no trust? You're going to question everything, every action with that individual is going to take. So yes, you will still be working, but the speed is going to slow, and then you'll be on fire, as somebody says. Teams go down in flames. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're engaged with another area, and then I will give my answer. If you're engaged in another area in a transactional way, is that even really a team? Like there's an intersection, there's an integration, from a process perspective, but you're not really a team. And so I think you do have to have trust, but I think there's also another piece that you have to have, which is tension. And I think you need to. I'm going to come up with my own formula so that I have my own Saby formula. But it's like you have to have this balance of trust and tension, so that you feel free to be critical and to be honest. And sometimes people aren't going to like that, but I think you need that tension, because when you rub against each other and you create something better as a result. So I think trust is a piece of it, and I think it is possible to work with people that you don't trust. And Leslie, who's going to be on the show next week, actually, had a good comment, right? Like, how do you work with someone that's just a jerk? Like, we've all had to work with that person. You find a way. For me, at least, you find a way to get through. But I would argue, you're never actually a team. You're just a collection of individuals.
I think what I would say about that is that you cannot change that person. You can only change how you feel about them and how you behave towards them. And the whole mindset of, I'm going to try and give this person feedback, I'm going to try and modify their behavior, it's not the way to go as a leader. No. It's all about how you interact with that person, role modeling the behaviors you want to see, rewarding the behaviors you want to see in your team, and not trying to change the jerk.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
There's nothing as powerful as smiling in the face of someone who is just berating you. And it's like, and I made that decision years ago, where it's like, I cannot be affected by someone else to the point where it affects me. And it happens. I'm not going to pretend that, that nothing ever gets to me.
Yeah.
And it's not like the arrogant smile of like, it's not that. But it's like, I'm going to let you do your thing. You yell, you do whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change anything. And if I have to work with, as Leslie said, a jerk, then I have to. And you find a way through. And if that means, as you said, Christina, modifying your behavior to just basically changing your heading, right? So that you can get to the destination, right? A plane doesn't fly straight. It adjusts its heading so that it can. Now we're going back to like high school physics. But,
I want to add to that, Vince, as well. Yeah. Right? Because if there is a jerk on your team, if you're not handling that individual as a leader, it's going to affect your whole team.
Yes.
Right? So as a leader, you have to sometimes take those tough decisions and have an honest conversation saying, yeah, you are whoever you are, but your actions shouldn't be impacting the team. And if those actions start impacting the team, these are the repercussions. This is a discipline process which I'm going to take.
Yeah.
Right? So because if, again, coming back to, it's a team environment, one bad apple can ruin the whole thing. So it's your moral responsibility as a leader to make sure that your team doesn't go in that way. You have to take those strong actions.
Yeah. In the pre-show, we were chatting about how I shopped at Primark and how I went to London for the BA Europe conference in 2018. And as you were saying that, Saby, I flashed back to and Christina, you were there. You probably remember the opening keynote, Sir Clive
Woodward.
There we go, the rugby guy.
Yes.
And how I do not, rugby's not really a big thing in Canada, at least not in my community. And so, but he, like, the things that he was talking about were really resonated, because it was like, you have to make, he did that, the thing, what are you, a sponge or a rock? And it was like, how are you open to absorbing new information, new ideas, new ways of working, or are you set? And that there was this realization that some of the people on his team, some of the best players, were rocks, and cutting those people was the most difficult thing because they were the stars, and yet they weren't willing to give in to that new way of playing, the new rugby things. And so yeah, it was that sort of really stuck with me, and I've had that discussion with Jared since then, because we were both there. But and I think you try to be a sponge. You try to take new things in, because it's I don't know that we as analysts and Saby as a PM and as a leader, I don't know that we have a choice to be a rock.
I think it comes back to what we were saying earlier about organizational culture and values. And when you find people who aren't aligning their behaviors to the values and culture of the organization, it's not the right organization for them, and they're not the right person for the team. And it's not saying that they're a bad person. They might be a jerk, but it's not about their personality. It's about those values. And if they don't share those values, then it's never going to work.
Right.
Which is why I think when you're looking for a new role, you're interviewing that organization as much as they're interviewing you, and you're saying, do my values, my personal beliefs, the things I think are important, do they align with this organization? And if they don't, walk away.
It's funny, I so in addition to this, I have my the podcast that I do with my good friend and colleague Mike Martino, who's been on the show. And it's amazing. We're now like 45 episodes in, and it's amazing how we'll talk about HR, we'll talk about decision making, we'll talk about leadership, but everything traces back to culture. Everything comes back to culture, and it's like you've got to get that culture right. And I agree. When you're going in, and this is why I think so many open positions are filled by referral and by like bringing people that will be a good fit, because it can be a very rude awakening to walk into a new organization blind. And it also, as I'm sort of thinking about this, it also makes me very wary when being approached for a new opportunity, and then it's like, hey, you should join us. We have a beer cart on Friday, and we have foosball tables, and and it's like, yeah, but that stuff is surface. It's not the culture. And so it scares me when those are the things that I'm being sold right out the gate. Like, don't tell me about that. Tell me about how you promote people. How do you engage your staff? How do you tell me that stuff? Because that's way more indicative of culture than beer cart Friday, or what was it in Office Space, Hawaiian shirt day or something like that. Anyways,
I do a lot of sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna add to what both of you said regarding organizational culture and values. One of the things which Simon Sinek has talked about is SEALs, right? Who are the folks who become these Navy SEALs? They're not the people who have big muscles and they're strong. They are not the individualistic person who go in there and say, okay, this is who I am and this is how I'm going to get it done. The people who become SEALs are there for their team members, right? When everything has drained out, they still step up and say, how can I help my team member? How can I save his life? Those are the people who become, that's the kind of culture a leader should be, creating within their organization.
Yeah, I actually just finished that book late last year. Leaders Eat. For those that are wondering, it's Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. Great book. I've got the next one, The Infinite Game, I think it's called, on my e-reader. I haven't started it yet because I'm finishing something else. But it's those people that have the resilience, and I think in that example, it was the experience of the team that came together, that they pulled each other along, versus that one star who, I can go without eating for a week, and I can, okay, cool, but the rest of your team is dead. So there we go.
just going to mention before that I do a lot of recruiting into my teams, and something that I always do is tell people the challenges within my organisation, because I don't want people to come in and be surprised or be caught unaware or feel that I've sold them an idea of an organisation that doesn't really exist. So I'm really open about the areas that we are still developing, where we're heading in the future, that it's not perfect at the moment, and I want somebody who chooses us despite those things.
Yeah, you go in eyes wide open, right? Like at least I know, I know where the ugly parts are. I know what the challenges are going to be. I know what pain I can expect to experience. And because of that, when it actually does happen, it's probably not as bad as you expect. And so you're ready for it, versus, you get dropped in and you're sold on the positives.
You thought
and
it was
then the negatives blindside
and football tables.
Yeah. Like, okay, cool. But then you can't use them between the hours of 9 and 5. So what's the point of having the foosball table, right? Like, anyways, this has been interesting, and I feel like we haven't had any, we haven't had the appropriate level of silliness yet. So I'd like to cultivate some silliness. Yeah. No, go ahead, Saby.
You need to start drinking, buddy.
I don't.
Like, that's why it's not happening today. You have
No, I'm going to disagree with you, because it is not like, even when I have like one shot. It's not. It's just this is who I am. But I think the topic that we're talking about is very serious, and I don't think it necessarily has to be. And I mean, we've had fun. We haven't been silly. But I do want to get into like horror stories, because I love to live vicariously through other people's pain. I'm like an energy vampire, and I want to like feed off of other people's painful experiences. So, Saby, I want to come to you first. So, Christina, you've got some time to think about this. What is the most ridiculous situation you have either seen or been a part of, where you observed really questionable, bad, poor behavior from a leader? And try to take us back there. Try to relive the experience and role play. So
this was the most ridiculous example which I ever saw in my life, where a senior leader who was supposed to be, when you're talking about leadership, you're talking about integrity. If there's no integrity, there's no leadership right there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually was caught stealing a $2 bakery item. And the first time, you will think, okay, by mistake, you will put it in your bag and you forgot to pay. When that action happened again, a week later, oh my God. Oh, I couldn't imagine, like, it's not like that individual doesn't have money or anything, right? But that was, I still can't believe that. So that was the most ridiculous thing I've seen for a leader, and that leader got fired or whatever that is. But if you don't have integrity for $2, how are you going to lead an organization with millions of dollars? Simple.
Yeah. I mean, the way you act, the way you do things is the way you do things. Right? So if you're okay with that, what are you going to do when it's 2 million or amazing. Christina,
so
same question.
The example that sprang to my mind, I've actually changed my mind about it from the way that I reacted at the time. Okay. So I was working for an organisation, and a new leader came in, and she was the only female leader at this in this executive team. And there was a kind of whole company meeting. We were all in some massive ballroom type thing. and she gave a presentation about herself, and it was almost entirely about shoes and her shoe collection. And at the time, I was really outraged because I was thinking, how many hundreds and hundreds of, I mean, probably thousands of pounds are being spent for us to listen to you talking about your shoe collection? And also, you're the first woman at this level in our organisation, and you so stereotypically talk about shoes the entire time. And I was outraged. And as the years have gone by, because this was a few years ago, I've now realised I see it very differently. I see it as her wanting to share something of herself and be authentic. And maybe I can still hold a bit of an issue with the amount of time that she talked about it, but I now at least understand why she was talking about it, and I didn't at the time.
That again, without knowing more, it's like, was she trying to be funny? Was she trying to, like, that's weird. That sucked. Okay, well, I mean,
I think she was just trying to share something of herself, I think, and kind of maybe went about it in a little bit the wrong way. But I was very intolerant at the time. I was so, I think I said outraged just then. I was outraged.
Yeah.
But over time, my reaction has mellowed.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, if you've gathered, if you've got an all staff, and maybe have one slide about, this is my shoe collection, and these are my purses, and this is my gun collection. Like, I don't know. But then it shouldn't be all that. So, if we're talking like an hour meeting and she cataloged her shoes, then that's, I mean, come on. For me, it's and I don't want to talk specifics because I don't want to get myself in trouble mainly, but the worst behavior that I've seen is leaders who steal credit. And so, sort of tying back to what you said, Saby, with that integrity is, stealing other people's work as their own, and claiming the credit, and when it's time to present to leaders that they want the work, and I've had projects more tied back to my Six Sigma days when I was doing those projects, where you'd find $500,000 in savings, and the leader would take the credit for it, even though they didn't do the work. And to me, that's again indicative of the culture, because that was encouraged and that was okay. It was like, and part of me wants to say, well, in the end, the work still got done. I did the right thing, but there's still, it's still reflective on them to be able to deflect that praise, right? Like, and I think actually it was one of the other things that was covered in Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last. It's like, when there's good news, when it's good, give to the team. When it's bad, it's all on you. You have to protect. And I think somebody put in the chat, and I apologize because it was a while ago. I think it was Rachel, but I'm not sure. You have to protect your team. That's your job as the leader is to keep them safe and keep them feeling like, because if you do that, they will go beyond for you. And but your job is to keep them safe. But that also means when good things happen, you don't take any credit. It's like, no, the team did this. It's them who should receive the praise. It's not me. And you'll get your praise just by reflection, right? But it's that lack of integrity of claiming credit for work you didn't do, which is to me is like the worst sin you can commit as a leader. I don't use the word hate very often. It's reserved for situations like this and like pineapple on pizza. Like that. Those are really the only, and pumpkin spice. Pumpkin spice anything.
Come on.
Anyways, like I'm starting a whole thing here. I don't want to.
I love pumpkin spice bread, buddy, from Starbucks.
No, dude, no.
No.
Can I tell a quick story and then because we're at time, but I want to and Steve Jones, who's here, is well aware of the story. Amy knows the story. I was in Boston and I was doing a workshop and I wanted to let's just get to know you at the beginning of the workshop. Where do you stand on pumpkin spice? And going around, everybody loved it, and I'm like, you're wrong. This is how I started my workshop, Christina. By the way, you guys are all wrong. You're all stupid. Pumpkin spice is an abomination. It is a crime against nature. So then throughout the course of the day, it's like, okay, now we're going to go out and we're going to do some tactical field work. So go out and explore the neighborhood and do some design. It was a design thinking workshop. So the first team comes back and they come back with a cup and they're like, we got you something. I'm like, you guys are so sweet. I'm here, I'm drinking this crappy, no offense, Amy, conference coffee. You guys are the best. And they're all smiling and I take a sip and they're like, it's good, isn't it? And it was at that moment that I realized they had gotten me a pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah.
And I was so angry. But as a Canadian, I had to finish it because, we have manners.
Oh.
So I was so and they watched me all day as I'm like, ugh. But I had to finish it. So anyways, pumpkin spice, you can go to hell. But but like Christina's comment, I think I've mellowed since then. Hey, if you like pumpkin spice, you're wrong, but you do you. So anyways, all right. We're past time. Let's close it off. Yeah. Christina, I'm gonna give you the first final word. What's the one thing you want to leave everyone who's joined and everyone who will check in afterwards? What's the one thought you want to leave them with?
I think
today?
where we started this conversation, that the analysis skill set is the leadership skill set, and we need to believe that as analysts.
Amen. Saby,
I will say
the final word.
Oh my God. I will say, do you get relationships in leadership, right? If there's no relationship, there's no leadership. So GET, G stands for gratitude. Are you thanking your team? Are you thanking yourself? E stands for empathy. And the empathy is of three kinds, right? And T is for trust. Are you building that trust? So do you get relationships? Because once you get those relationships, you will quickly build your leadership staff.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for being on. Christina, I know it's late for you, so I apologize. But you had tea to keep you company. Hopefully this wasn't too painful for a first time.
I love talking to you both. Thank you so much.
You guys are awesome. I want to thank you both. And I want to thank everyone who checked in today and watched. Appreciate your comments, even Jimmy's quotes. You guys are awesome. So we'll see you next week on Analysts After Work. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.